Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, here from our innovation studio in Houston. Today, I'm going to take you on a step-to-step journey on how to replace the plastic sleeves on our robot arm that we're shipping as part of the shop floor to top floor manufacturing demo. Those arms have plastic sleeves that connect the servos to the actual arm, and sometimes during transport when there's a shock on the robot, those sleeves tend to crack. So today we're going to replace them with some aluminum sleeves, give us a bit more durability. For this we need some tools. We will need a Phillips bit PH1. We will need an Allen hex bit H2.5 and an Allen hex bit H3.0 for M3 and M4 bolts respectively. We'll need tweezers just in case, a needle nose plier, and last but not least we will need an M3 drill to open up the holes in our replacement horn. So, without any further ado, let's go to the workbench and let's get going on replacing those servo horns. Come on, follow me. Alright, so here we have our robot arm, and on the robot arm you see that there are two big servos down here. These are MG995 servos, and there's the hip servo, and the hip servo, you can recognize the hip servo because it directly connects to this large piece of plastic on the arm here. On the other side we have the shoulder servo, and the shoulder servo you can recognize by having this smaller lever here that actuates the shoulder. So hip on the big one, shoulder the one with that additional lever. Today we are going to be working on the hip servo. That is the one where most of the time the servo sleeve that's right in here is cracking when there is downward pressure exerted on the robot, which might happen during travel. So let's get started. We will start with loosening a couple of screws here. So we will be taking off, if I have the side view here, we'll be taking off first of all these two screws, followed by this screw down here, and then the two M4s down here at the bottom. Those are all the screws that we have to remove. So let's get that started. I'm going to start with an Allen bit H2.5, looks like that. That fits into those M3 screws here. I'm just going to take them out. They just essentially unscrew, and just put them on the side here so that we don't lose them. Go number two, and then we have another screw down here holding this this crossbar in. Let's loosen that one. Let's take that one out. Okay, and this one has a little washer that comes with it. Don't lose that. Okay, and so now that we've loosened those three screws, we're going to be changing our hex bit to a 3.0, which is going to be good for the M4 screws down here. And so for the M4s, what I usually do is there's a nut that sits behind this. So I'm just basically keeping my hand here underneath, loosening this screw up. And when I take that out, the nut is probably going to fall out. So let's see, here we go. And yep, so here's the nut that's falling out, don't lose that. And then on the back one, we'll do the same thing. We'll take out the screw. The nut here is held in by a backing piece, so you don't have to worry about this one is not going to fall out. So we'll take this one out. And so now we've loosened all of the screws that we need to loosen. So now the next thing we need to do is we need to essentially just pull off the arm like so, so that we can get access to the axle here, because we need to remove that axle out. And for that we'll take our needle nose plier and, you know, very carefully just move out the axle so we can now get access to the set screw inside the servo. Alright, so now what we'll do is we'll change our bit on the screwdriver to a Phillips bit. And this is a PH1. And with the Phillips bit, what I'll do is I'll go inside here the bearing, and there's a little set screw in here. I'm going to loose that set screw until it's loose, and then what I can do is I can simply take off the servo from the servo arm. Looks like this now. Okay. And so now this gives me access to the servo horn. This is the broken horn that we need to replace. So I'm simply, just to point this out to you, that servo horn is sitting on this plastic arm, and then there's a fairly large plastic washer here. So what we're going to have to do now is we have to take off these two Phillips head screws to remove the servo horn from the plastic arm. Like so, and that will also remove that plastic washer. So don't, be careful, just hold that so don't lose this. It's going to remove that washer like this, and in that plastic washer you see there's a ball bearing. Let's make sure we don't lose that one. So now that we have this, here's our servo sleeve that we have that is cracked. If you look at it very careful, you can probably see the crack. It's usually here in on that sleeve that attaches the teeth in the servo horn to the teeth in the servo. Okay, so now we'll take our replacement horn that we've got. Looks like this, and if you put them back by back, you might notice that the holes in the original servo horn, there are a number of holes, and two of them are drilled a little bit larger. You see that here, right? And so those are the ones we need to align with the new one that we bought. And depending on what servo horn you bought, you might find that number one, these two holes are not exactly aligned, and number two, they might be a little bit small, and so we have to drill them up. And so that's what we have to do next. We have to actually go and drill open these holes, and I'm gonna go over to my drill press, and I'm gonna show this to you. If you do not have a drill press, there's a couple of things you can do. If the holes are aligning well, you can simply drill them open with an M3 drill, and it will probably fit. If you need a bit more space, you can use an M3.5 or a 4mm drill to get some slack. Or you can, if the holes don't align at all, what you can do is you can just mark it. I'm going to show you a trick that I use when I drill these open on my drill press that you can use as well. But it's important that we open up the two of the holes on the replacement sleeve to align with the original holes on the broken sleeve and with their size. So let's do that right now. I'm going to go over to my drill press. Come on with me. Alright, welcome to the shop, and what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be drilling our new sleeve so that it has the same openings for mounting as the old sleeve has. We're doing that with that drill press here. If you do not have a drill press, then you can just use a trusty drill. I already put a 3mm drill bit in here, but I want to first show you a little trick that you can use to easily align the old and the new sleeve together. So let's take a look. So I have the old plastic sleeve right here, and also our new aluminum sleeve. And so what I want to do is I'm going to position them back to back, like so. There you have it. And I'm going to align the, and you can see this here, I'm going to align the openings as much as possible. And you notice that the openings on my aluminum sleeve are a little bit tighter together, and they are also a little bit smaller than on the plastic one. But I'm going to just align them so that they're in center, and then I'm going to take a vice grip like this, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clamp it together in such a way that it's nicely aligned at the center, and I can still access both of the drill holes from both sides. I'm just clamp it shut, and so now we have those clamped together, and I can easily now put them on the drill and drill them, which I'm going to show you right now. Okay, here we go. All right, just get that drill going. I want to do it from the back so you can easily see it. And you see, my first one is drilled through. Now I do the second one. To move it over a little bit because it got a little bit in the way. And there you have it, drilled open. To the same dimensions as the old one. Now, as I mentioned, if you do not have a drill press, you can just as easily use a normal drill bit like this, and you just do it the same way and just essentially use use a little wooden block or something like this as the surface, and then just simply drill it from the top, just like this. So works the same way whether you have a drill press or not. And let's open these up, and here it is, drilled open, and now we can go and install it back into our robot. All right, here we are back. So I've drilled open two of these holes, and again, if I put them back to back with my existing servo sleeve, you can see they're aligning quite nicely. And so what I'm going to do is now I'm going to install, before I install this new servo wheel, what we'll have to do is we'll have to reset the position on the servo. In order to do that, what we'll do is we'll take the new servo horn and slip it very gently on the servo, and then what you want to do is you want to rotate manually with your hand. You want to rotate that counterclockwise, and that might not be as easy as it sounds. I'm gonna use my needle nose plier to give me a little bit of leverage, but you want to essentially turn it very gently, counterclockwise, all the way until you hit the servo end stop. The servo end stop is where essentially there's a pin inside the servo that doesn't allow it to rotate anymore, because these servos have a 180-degree rotation. So essentially you can rotate them around the other way for 180 degrees, but we want to, again, turn them counterclockwise until we hit that end stop. There we go, and you can feel it. Don't press too hard because you will break the servo, but you will feel when you have reached the end stop. And then we want to turn it back clockwise by about 5 degrees. I'll make that 10 degrees, by about 10 degrees. So about 7 or 8 minutes, right? Okay. Now, once we've done that, and this is a very important step, please do not skip that step, because otherwise all of the movement of the arm is not going to be free enough. So after you've reset the servo like that, you can take the wheel back off again, and we're now gonna reassemble the whole assembly. So we'll take that little plastic sleeve, hold it here. We'll put our we'll use our M3 screws and put the new sleeve in. And you notice also that the new sleeve is made out of aluminum, so this is not going to break again. I'm going to put the there we go, one, and two. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. And so now you will know whether you've drilled open correctly, because if you haven't drilled open those holes correctly, it will actually not fit at this stage. But mine fits quite nicely. Here we go. I'm going to tighten down my screws. I'm going to make sure that they are good and tight. One, two. Okay. All right. Now that we have our sleeve attached back to that plastic arm, we can start putting it back together again. And to do that, the first thing we have to do is correctly align the servo with the new sleeve. To do that, we will essentially just reconnect the axle and just slide it back into the other side as well, so that the arm is like this, and you want to basically put the arm into resting position so that it rests down. And then once it's in resting position like this, we will simply slide the servo into the sleeve, so it's aligned like that. Now don't let it slip out, because it's not secured yet. And so what we want to do is now hold this together and pull this back out, pull the axle back out, and that now allows us to reseat the set screw of the servo. I'm going to do that right now. So, well, let's see. Here's my here's my set screw. I'm just going to slide that in here and fasten it. There you go. Okay. So now it's fastened in. So now we can slip the axle back into the bearing, slid the other side of the axle into the bearing on the opposite side, and just seat that home like so. And now our robot actually is back in action, and the only thing we have to do now is put the screws back in. And so we'll essentially start backwards, just like we started. We start by taking the M2.5 Allen wrench, and I'm going to first of all reattach the two screws along the arm, just to secure the arm. So we'll do that first. One, two. All right, so now we've got those two screws back attached. We'll take the screw for the crossbar. That's the one with the the little washer, and we'll attach this one back. That's pulling everything together tight. There you go. And now we just have to put in the screws there on the bottom. So we have to change our bit to the M30, to the H30 Allen bit for the M4 screws. Slide that in here. And I'm only usually start with the back hole, because the nut should still be in there. You might have to just wiggle a little bit for it to get seated, and then just essentially tighten this in. And then for the last one here on the front bottom, what I usually do is I take the nut and I kind of slide it in from below. It's kind of hard to see, but you look for the opening from below. You see, I do this again here. Let me see whether I can zoom in on this perhaps a little bit. Okay, let's see. Okay, yeah. So here's the nut, and I'm essentially just sliding it in. I'm looking kind of for the opening here until I find it, and there it is. And I just slide it up in there, hold it in with my finger, and then I just essentially screw in that bolt and tighten it up. So now everything is assembled back into one piece. Let me zoom out here. And so before we power it back up, what we'll do is we'll just make sure that the movement is still correct. So you remember how we adjusted the servo earlier before we put it all back together. So what you want to do is very, very carefully, I want to show you from the side, you want to very carefully move the arm forward. And as you do that, again, you want to watch this angle here. And you want to essentially be able to easily bring it forward to kind of a full extension like this. So we just want to make sure that it goes all the way up like this, and then we'll slowly move it back. And what we'll want to see is in the resting position, I want to turn it around for you from the other side. In the resting position, we kind of want the arm here just to rest on that little lever here. So, you know, if this is the range of motion that we want, if we have this range of motion, we are in great shape and we are finished. If not, if you as you try this out, as you move forward, and you find that it kind of stuck and you can't move it forward anymore, then something with the servo setting is not quite right, and we have to essentially take it apart again, essentially retwist it. Remember how I showed this to you? Essentially, you just move it back counterclockwise all the way until it's at rest. And then again move it forward by about 10 degrees or so. So it's always the same. It's always the same process. So that's to ensure that our end stops on the servo are aligned correctly. And again, it should have a free range of motion if you did it correctly. And that's it. And so now what needs to still be done is, after now we've done this, we can power up the arm again. Please don't do that though. So what we'll do is next we'll arrange a calibration session, and during that calibration session we'll readjust the settings on the servos in the device twin to reflect the new position of that sleeve, because it's not exactly the same as it was before. Which is why I don't want you to turn on the power, because it might, in the rest position, it might put too much. It might try to go too far down, put too much load on that servo. I don't think it's going to happen, but just in case, don't power it on until we had a chance to do it together and find the new rest positions of the servo. So with that, I leave you at it. Have fun replacing this. If you would like me to be there to replace it with you, just reach out. We'll find a good time, put it on the schedule, and we'll do it together. Other than that, have fun with robot surgery, and we'll speak soon. Bye now.